Lieutenant Raven Stone stood at the Quantum Observatory's main console, her dark eyes fixed on the anomalous signal patterns dancing across the holographic display. After 3 years of monitoring deep space communications at the International Space Defense Academy, she had never seen anything quite like this. "Commander Walsh, you need to see this," she called out, her fingers flying across the neural interface. The signal wasn't random noise. It carried a distinct mathematical sequence that repeated with perfect precision. The commander's heavy footsteps echoed through the observatory's dome as he approached. "This better be good, Lieutenant. The Joint Chiefs are breathing down my neck about resource allocation." "It's better than good, sir. It's impossible." Raven expanded the signal analysis across the main viewing screen. "Look at these patterns. They're using prime numbers as a base communication protocol. But there's something else embedded in the signal. Something that shouldn't be possible with our current understanding of quantum mechanics." Walsh's weathered face creased with concern as he studied the data. "Origin point. That's the other impossible thing, sir. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Like someone figured out how to broadcast through subspace itself." Before Walsh could respond, the signal changed. The mathematical sequence shifted, and suddenly every screen in the observatory filled with crystalline symbols that seemed to move and reshape themselves as they watched. "They're responding to our observations," Raven whispered, her heart pounding. "The signal. It's adaptive. It's learning our systems as we study it." The air in the observatory grew thick with tension as more senior staff gathered around the main console. Dr. Harrison, the Academy's leading xenolinguist, pushed her way to the front, her silver hair catching the blue light from the displays. "This is First Contact Protocol," she announced, her voice trembling with excitement. "But unlike anything we theorized, they're not just sending a message, they're creating a shared language in real time." As if responding to her words, the crystalline symbols began arranging themselves into recognizable patterns. Mathematical equations transformed into English letters, then into complete words. "We have we have we come in peace." "My God," Walsh breathed. "Get me the Joint Chiefs. Now." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of activity. The Academy transformed into the center of humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. The beings called themselves the Arcturians, and they claimed to represent a vast coalition of spacefaring species. Their first physical meeting was scheduled to take place at the Academy itself. Raven found herself assigned as the primary communications officer, her unique insight into the original signal making her invaluable to the contact team. The day of the meeting arrived with unprecedented security measures in place. A designated landing zone had been prepared on the Academy's main parade ground, and representatives from every major world government were in attendance. The Arcturian ship descended from the clouds like a piece of living crystal, its surface refracting sunlight in impossible ways. It was beautiful, elegant, and utterly alien. As it touched down, a hush fell over the assembled crowd. A seamless door materialized in the ship's hull, and the first Arcturian emerged. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body covered in what appeared to be living crystal that shifted colors with each movement. Multiple limbs moved with fluid grace as it approached the human delegation. Raven stood at attention beside Commander Walsh, her neural interface ready to assist with translation if needed. But the Arcturian spoke perfect English, its voice resonating with harmonic overtones that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Cadet," it announced. "I am High Commander Zextal, and we have come to welcome humanity into a greater community of worlds." Everything seemed perfect, too perfect, Raven realized, as her trained eye caught subtle discrepancies in the Arcturians' movements. Something about the way they had mastered English so quickly, the way their technology seemed specifically designed to awe and impress. While the diplomats exchanged formal greetings, Raven quietly accessed the Academy's deep space monitoring network through her neural interface. What she found made her blood run cold. Hidden behind the moon, shielded from conventional detection methods, was a massive energy signature. The kind of signature that could only come from a warfleet. She discreetly sent her findings to Commander Walsh's neural feed. His expression didn't change, but she saw his hand tighten on his ceremonial sword. The Arcturian's crystalline surface rippled with colors as it continued its speech about peace and cooperation. But now Raven could see the subtle patterns in its color shifts, patterns that matched the original signal's mathematical sequence, patterns that spoke not of peace, but of conquest. Humanity's first contact wasn't a diplomatic mission. It was an advance scout for an invasion force. As if sensing her realization, High Commander Zextal turned its multifaceted eyes toward Raven. The colors across its surface shifted to deep crimson, and for a moment, the harmonic overtones in its voice carried an unmistakable note of threat. "Is something troubling you, Lieutenant Stone?" it asked, using her name despite it never being provided. The fate of Earth might well hang on how she answered that question. Raven straightened her spine, met those alien eyes, and prepared to play the most important game of deception in human history. The real war for Earth's survival was about to begin. Lieutenant Raven Stone sat in the Academy's secure quantum lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing the dissected components of the Arcturian signal. 3 days had passed since the first contact ceremony, and she hadn't slept for more than a few hours at a time. "Run the analysis again," she ordered the lab's AI system. "Focus on the subharmonic patterns during the High Commander's speech." The diplomatic circus continued above ground, with High Commander Zextal charming world leaders with promises of advanced technology and cultural exchange. Meanwhile, Raven and a select team worked desperately to prove what they all suspected, that humanity was being played for fools. Captain James Rodriguez, the Academy's head of cybersecurity, entered the lab with fresh stimulant capsules. "Tell me you found something we can use," he said, dropping into the chair beside her. His dark eyes were as tired as hers. "Maybe." Raven manipulated the holographic data with practiced gestures. "Look at this. Every time Zextal speaks, there's a quantum-level signal being broadcast. It's subtle, masked by their natural crystalline resonance, but it's there. A communication channel, more like a control signal." Raven pulled up footage from the first contact ceremony. "See how everyone seems entranced when they speak? It's not just their voice. They're broadcasting some kind of subtle neural interface signal, not strong enough to control minds, but enough to influence emotions, make people more trusting." James whistled low. "That's why the diplomats are falling all over themselves to give the Arcturians whatever they want." "Exactly. But here's the interesting part." Raven overlaid the signal analysis with standard human neural interface protocols. Their quantum broadcast technology. It's based on human neural interface architecture. They've advanced it beyond anything we can do, but the basic structure is the same. That's impossible. We only developed neural interfaces 30 years ago. Unless they've been watching us for a lot longer than they claim. Raven brought up another display showing the hidden Warfleet's energy signature. "And they're not just watching anymore. That fleet has enough firepower to glass the planet." James leaned forward, studying the data. "If their tech is based on ours, even partially, then it might have the same vulnerabilities." Raven finished his thought. "We just need to find them before the fleet makes its move." Their discussion was interrupted by Commander Walsh's urgent entrance. "Lieutenant, Captain, we have a situation. The Arcturians are requesting a tour of our quantum computing facility." Raven's heart skipped. The quantum computing core was the heart of Earth's defense systems. They're mapping our capabilities. "Agreed." Walsh's face was grim. "But we can't refuse without arousing suspicion, which is why you're going to give them the tour, Lieutenant Stone." "Sir, you're our best chance at understanding their technology. While you show them what we want them to see, I need you to get as much data as possible on their neural interface signals. Dr. Harrison has developed a cover story about your interest in their crystalline biology to explain any scans you might need to run." Raven nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. What about the fleet behind the moon? Still hidden. As far as we can tell, they don't know we've detected them. Let's keep it that way. 2 hours later, Raven stood in the entrance of the quantum computing facility, watching High Commander Zextal and 2 other Arcturians approach. Their crystalline forms caught the fluorescent lighting, sending rainbow refractions dancing across the walls. Lieutenant Stone. Zextal's harmonic voice carried that same subtle resonance she'd detected before. How fascinating to meet again. Your work on quantum signaling is quite impressive. They knew. They had to know she'd been analyzing their signals. But why reveal that knowledge, unless you honor us with your interest, High Commander? Raven activated her modified neural interface, specially shielded against their influence. Shall we begin with the primary computation chamber? As she led the tour, Raven's interface worked overtime, recording every quantum fluctuation, every crystalline color shift, every subtle harmonic in their speech. The Arcturians asked pointed questions about Earth's quantum encryption protocols, their interest barely disguised beneath diplomatic courtesy. But Raven was making discoveries of her own. Each time the aliens passed through a security checkpoint, their crystalline forms exhibited microscopic changes, adjustments to match the quantum signatures of authorized personnel. They weren't just observing Earth's technology, they were actively assimilating it. During a demonstration of the facility's neural interface hub, Raven noticed something else. When the systems activated, sending out their standard quantum handshake protocols, the Arcturians' crystalline surfaces briefly resonated at the exact same frequency. She remembered her grandmother's words about old computer systems. Everything built on existing architecture inherits its predecessor's flaws. That's when it hit her. The Arcturians hadn't just based their technology on human neural interfaces. They'd built their entire command and control structure on top of it, scaling it up to unimaginable levels. Which meant, is everything all right, Lieutenant? Zextal asked, those multifaceted eyes studying her intently. Your neural patterns show elevated excitement. Raven forced herself to remain calm. Just enthusiasm for the exchange of knowledge, High Commander. Shall we proceed to the quantum shielding laboratories? Later, in Commander Walsh's secure office, Raven laid out her discovery. Their entire neural network, from their personal interfaces to their ship controls, is built on human neural architecture. They've advanced it, hardened it, but the basic protocols are the same. How does this help us? Walsh asked. Every neural interface system has a fundamental vulnerability: the need to verify and authenticate connections. It's why we can't just hack each other's neural feeds. But the Arcturians. She pulled up her scans from the tour. They're using a unified authentication protocol across their entire network. One master key for everything. James leaned forward. If we could crack that key, we could potentially access every system in their network. Ships, weapons, personal interfaces, all of it. Walsh's expression hardened. How long to crack it? Their quantum encryption is beyond anything we have. It would take centuries using conventional methods. Raven allowed herself a small smile, but they made one crucial mistake. They based it all on human architecture, which means she connected her neural interface to the main display, showing lines of code that made both men's eyes widen. We don't need to crack their encryption. We just need to convince their systems that we're supposed to be there. And thanks to today's tour, I know exactly how their authentication protocols work. For the first time since the Arcturians arrived, hope flickered in Commander Walsh's eyes. How long? Give me 48 hours and full access to the quantum computing core. Raven's fingers were already flying across her interface. I'll give you a skeleton key to their entire network. What she didn't say was that they might not have 48 hours. The hidden fleet was moving, ever so slightly, adjusting its position for what could only be an attack vector. The race to save humanity had begun. The quantum computing core hummed with unprecedented power as Raven's code worked through the final permutations of the Arcturian authentication protocols. She hadn't left the secure lab in 36 hours, and the stimulant patches on her neck were starting to leave angry red marks. Neural convergence at 87%, the AI system announced. Estimated time to completion: 3 hours, 14 minutes. "We don't have 3 hours," James said from his monitoring station. "The fleet is moving." He brought up the tactical display, showing the massive Arcturian warships emerging from behind the moon. Their crystalline hulls caught the sunlight, creating a spectacular and terrifying light show visible from Earth's surface. "They're not even trying to hide anymore," Raven muttered, her fingers dancing across neural interfaces. "How long until they're in weapons range?" 2 hours, maybe less. They're pushing their engines hard." Above them, in the diplomatic conference rooms, High Commander Zextal was undoubtedly still maintaining the pretense of peace talks. But the game was over. The Arcturians knew that humanity had discovered their true intentions. Commander Walsh's holographic form materialized in the lab. "Status report." "We're close, sir," Raven said. "The authentication bypass is almost ready, but we're running out of time," Walsh finished. "The Joint Chiefs are preparing to launch everything we have. Nuclear, antimatter catalysts, quantum disruptors, the whole arsenal." "It won't be enough," James warned. "Their shields operate on principles we barely understand. Conventional weapons will just bounce off." Raven stared at the streams of quantum data flowing through her neural interface, watching as the program worked to crack the Arcturian security protocols. There had to be a way to speed this up. Then she saw it, a pattern in the authentication algorithms, something so obvious she'd missed it before. "They're not just using our architecture," she breathed. "They're using our old security certificates, the original ones, from when neural interfaces were first developed." James frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Those certificates were compromised decades ago. That's why we developed quantum authentication." "Exactly." Raven's fingers flew across the interfaces. "They must have been monitoring us when neural tech was first developed. They copied our systems then, scaled them up to an incredible degree, but never fundamentally changed the authentication architecture. Because it worked for them," Walsh realized. "Until now, they've never encountered a species advanced enough to challenge their systems." Raven was already rewriting her code, implementing the ancient vulnerabilities that had been patched out of Earth's systems years ago. "Get me access to the planetary defense grid. I need to broadcast on all quantum frequencies." "You want to what?" Walsh demanded. "Trust me, sir. If this works, we won't just stop their fleet. We'll have control of it." The next hour was a blur of activity. As the Arcturian fleet approached Earth orbit, Raven's modified program was uploaded to every quantum transmitter on the planet. Defense satellites, communication arrays, even civilian neural interface hubs, all of them reprogrammed to broadcast a very specific signal. High Commander Zextal's holographic form appeared in every major command center on Earth. "Your pitiful attempts at resistance are noted," it announced, the harmonic overtones now carrying undisguised menace. "Surrender now, and we will preserve your species as productive servants of the Concordat." Raven looked at Commander Walsh, who nodded grimly. "Do it." She activated the broadcast. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across the tactical displays, the Arcturian fleet faltered. Their perfect formation wavered as ships suddenly lost power, their crystalline hulls darkening. "It's working," James exclaimed. "Their neural networks are accepting our authentication codes as primary override commands." Through the quantum feeds, Raven could feel the confusion and panic spreading through the Arcturian command structure. Their entire neural network, from ship controls to personal interfaces, was responding to Earth's broadcast as if it came from their own highest authorities. High Commander Zextal's hologram flickered, its crystalline form showing signs of distress. What have you done?" "We gave you back your own technology," Raven answered, allowing herself a small smile. You really should have updated those security certificates. The Arcturian fleet hung motionless in orbit, their weapons powered down, their commanders unable to issue orders through compromised neural networks. Earth's defensive grid, meanwhile, had a clear shot at every ship. Shall we discuss surrender terms, High Commander? Walsh asked, this time without the neural influence attempts. But Zextal wasn't finished. The colors across its crystalline form shifted to deep crimson, and a new signal pulsed through the quantum networks, something ancient and powerful that made Raven's neural interface scream with warning alerts. You think you understand our technology? Zextal's voice resonated with frequencies that made human teeth vibrate. We have had millennia to perfect it, to build in contingencies you cannot imagine. The tactical displays erupted with new alerts. The Arcturian ships were changing, their crystalline structures reorganizing into new configurations. They're bypassing their own neural networks, James reported, his voice tense. Going to manual control systems we didn't even know existed. Raven watched in horror as her careful work was undone. The Arcturian fleet was waking up, and this time, they would show no pretense of diplomacy. The battle for Earth was about to begin in earnest. Commander, she said, her mind racing with new possibilities, I need access to the quantum core's full power reserves. And get me Dr. Harrison. I have an idea, but we're going to need her xenolinguistic expertise. The future of humanity would depend on what they did in the next few minutes. What we're seeing isn't just technology, Dr. Harrison explained, her hands moving rapidly through the holographic data Raven had collected. It's language. The crystalline structures, the quantum resonance patterns, they're all part of a complex communication system that predates their neural interfaces. The Arcturian fleet loomed above Earth, their ships now pulsing with colors that seemed to defy physics. They hadn't opened fire yet, but every defense system on the planet registered massive energy buildups. How does this help us? Walsh demanded. They've already broken free of our control hack. Because, Raven said, her neural interface processing the new data, if their technology is based on language, we can try to speak directly to their ships. Not through the neural networks, but through the crystalline structures themselves. She brought up the original first contact signal that had started everything. Look at these patterns. They're not just mathematical sequences. They're phrases written in light and quantum resonance. Dr. Harrison nodded excitedly. Yes, and the colors we're seeing in their ships now, they're expressing emotions. Fear, anger, but also uncertainty. James studied the tactical displays. They could have fired already. Why haven't they? A new alert flashed across the quantum networks. High Commander Zextal was broadcasting again, but something was different. The harmonic overtones in its voice carried complex undertones that the translation system struggled to process. Your resistance was unexpected, it said. In all our centuries of expansion, no species has ever penetrated our control systems. This creates complications. Raven's fingers flew across her neural interface, analyzing the broadcast's underlying quantum signatures. There's more being said here, Dr. Harrison. Look at the subharmonic patterns. The xenolinguist's eyes widened. It's an internal debate. The crystalline resonance shows multiple voices, multiple factions within their command structure. They're arguing about what to do with us, Raven realized. Some of them want to continue the attack, but others. She fed the quantum core's full power into her analysis systems, finally understanding what she was seeing. The Arcturians weren't just communicating. Their entire civilization was built on the principle of resonance. Ideas, emotions, even their very consciousness flowed through crystalline structures in patterns of light and quantum harmony. Commander, she said, I need to try something. It's risky, but it might be our only chance. Walsh looked at the tactical displays, where Earth's weapons remained trained on the alien fleet. Whatever you're going to do it fast. The Joint Chiefs are getting twitchy. Raven took a deep breath, and connected her neural interface directly to the quantum core. The raw power of Earth's most advanced computer system flowed through her mind, transforming her thoughts into patterns of light and quantum resonance. She began to broadcast, not in words or mathematical sequences, but in pure crystalline harmonies. She showed them humanity's story, not just their technological advancement, but their art, their music, their endless drive to understand the universe. She showed them war and peace, creation and destruction, the full spectrum of human experience translated into their own crystalline language. The Arcturian fleet's colors shifted, rippling with new patterns as her message spread from ship to ship. High Commander Zextal's hologram flickered, its crystalline form resonating in response. "You understand." A harmonic overtones in its voice held genuine surprise. "We do," Raven replied, maintaining the crystalline broadcast. "And we know you understand us better than you've admitted. You've been watching humanity since we first developed neural interface technology. You saw something in us that frightened you. Your potential," Zextal acknowledged. "Your species advances at an unprecedented rate. In mere decades, you achieved what took us centuries. The Concordat determined you were too dangerous to be allowed to develop independently. So you decided to conquer us first, using our own technology against us. It was the logical solution." But the harmonics in Zextal's voice wavered with uncertainty. "Was it?" Raven pushed harder, her broadcast carrying the full weight of human emotion and determination. "Or was it fear? Fear that we might surpass you, that we might achieve something you haven't been able to in all your millennia of existence." The crystalline fleet pulsed with new colors: debate, uncertainty, and something else. Recognition. "What is it you think we haven't achieved?" Zextal demanded. "Change." Raven showed them humanity's greatest strength through the quantum broadcast, their ability to adapt, to transform, to take the impossible and make it reality. "Your civilization is built on harmony, on perfect resonance, but you've become static, unchanging. You copy and assimilate, but never truly innovate." The fleet's colors shifted again, and this time Raven saw something unprecedented: discord in the perfect crystalline harmony. Some ships began to pulse with new patterns, ones that spoke of curiosity, of possibility. High Commander Zextal's form flickered as the debate raged through the Arcturian command structure. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as an ancient civilization grappled with ideas that challenged millennia of certainty. Finally, Zextal spoke again, but the harmonic overtones in its voice had changed. Gone was the smug superiority, replaced by something closer to wonder. "Perhaps," it said, "we have more to learn from humanity than we realized." The Arcturian fleet's weapons powered down, their crystalline hulls shifting to colors that Dr. Harrison identified as conciliatory. But Raven knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning of something far more interesting. The question was, what would happen next? The Grand Conference Chamber of the International Space Defense Academy had been transformed. Crystalline growths now lined the walls, pulsing with gentle colors that translated emotions and ideas into visual harmonies. 1 month after the near invasion, humans and Arcturians were learning to communicate in entirely new ways. Raven stood at the central podium, her neural interface now modified with crystalline components that allowed her to broadcast directly in the Arcturians' natural language. Before her sat representatives from both species, their minds linked in a carefully controlled quantum network that preserved both human independence and Arcturian harmony. "The integration of our technologies continues to exceed expectations," she reported, her words accompanied by ripples of blue-green light that conveyed additional layers of meaning. "The modified neural interfaces allow humans to access the crystalline quantum network while maintaining our individual thought patterns." High Commander Zextal, now serving as the primary liaison between Earth and the Concordat, shifted its crystalline form in what Raven had learned to recognize as appreciation. "Your species' ability to adapt continues to astonish. You've achieved in weeks what took our ancestors generations." The chamber's displays showed the ongoing work, human and Arcturian scientists collaborating on new technologies that combine the best of both civilizations. Neural interfaces enhanced with crystalline processors, quantum networks that could carry both digital data and emotional resonance, ships that could be controlled by thought, but never at the expense of free will. There's something else, Raven continued, bringing up new data streams. Our studies of the crystalline language have revealed patterns we believe predate the Concordat itself. Dr. Harrison, the xenolinguist, stepped forward, her own neural interface glowing with excited patterns. The basic structures of your quantum language show evidence of adaptation from an even older form of communication, one that suggests your species wasn't always crystalline. A murmur ran through the Arcturian delegation, their forms flickering with colors that indicated surprise and discomfort. High Commander Zextal's surface rippled with deep purple uncertainty. That knowledge was lost, it admitted, harmonics carrying ancient regret. Our transformation to crystalline form occurred so long ago that even our quantum memory cores hold no record of our original state. But the language remembers, Raven said softly. Just as human DNA carries echoes of our evolutionary past, your quantum harmonies still hold patterns from before the transformation, and we think we know why you've been unable to evolve further. She transmitted a complex series of calculations through the quantum network. The crystalline growths around the chamber pulsed in response, creating a visual representation of her theory. Your perfect harmony is also a perfect stasis. The very transformation that made you so powerful also locked you into a single form of evolution. But humanity's neural interface technology, combined with your crystalline quantum networks, could allow controlled variation. Zextal finished, its form blazing with sudden understanding. A way to grow and change without losing our essential nature. The chamber erupted in discussions, human voices mixing with crystalline harmonies as both species grappled with the implications. The Arcturians had sought to conquer humanity to prevent them from becoming too powerful. Instead, they had found the key to their own continued evolution. Commander Walsh, now wearing the insignia of Earth's first Xenodiplomatic Corps, stepped forward. The Joint Chiefs have approved the formation of a permanent human Arcturian research initiative. Lieutenant Stone will head the technical division, with Dr. Harrison leading cultural integration. Raven felt a surge of excitement that sent ripples of gold through her crystalline interface. The near disaster of first contact had transformed into an opportunity beyond imagination. Humanity would gain access to the Concordat's vast knowledge and technology, while the Arcturians would learn to embrace change and growth once again. There will be challenges, Zextal acknowledged, its harmonics carrying both hope and caution. Some within the Concordat still fear human potential. Good, Raven replied with a smile. A little fear keeps us humble. A little challenge keeps us growing. But what we can achieve together. She let her quantum broadcast carry the full scope of her vision, lighting up the chamber with possibilities. The crystalline surfaces around them pulsed with new colors, not the perfect harmonies of the past, but complex, evolving patterns that spoke of transformation and discovery. Human and Arcturian consciousness merged in the quantum networks, each maintaining their unique nature while creating something entirely new. In the space above Earth, the combined fleet of both species hung in orbit. The Arcturian ships still shone with crystalline light, but now they carried human crews as well, their neural interfaces allowing them to communicate in both digital and quantum languages. Earth's own vessels were being upgraded with crystalline technology, preparing for humanity's first steps into the wider galaxy. You know, James said as he joined Raven at the podium, when you first detected that signal, I never imagined it would end like this. It hasn't ended, Raven corrected him, watching the dance of light and quantum resonance that filled the chamber. It's only beginning. The future stretched before them, bright with possibilities. Two civilizations, once poised for war, now stood ready to evolve together. The Arcturians would learn to embrace change, while humanity would gain the wisdom of ages. And somewhere in the vast unknown of space, other species waited to be discovered, each with their own gifts to share. High Commander Zextal rose, its crystalline form shimmering with all the colors of possibility. "Shall we begin?" it asked, extending multiple limbs in a gesture of partnership. Raven stepped forward, her neural interface resonating with the harmonies of two civilizations united in purpose. "Let's show the galaxy what we can become together." And in that moment, as human determination met Arcturian wisdom, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming the birth of something entirely new in the vast cosmic dance. The end.